Welcome to Rauta. This video is done in commercial collaboration with our sponsor, Steelfest. Welcome to Rauta's Non-Metal Reviews. This time we have a pretty interesting cult release by Cold Spring from United Kingdom. This one is technically speaking a reissue, but it's not just any kind of a reissue. This one is a classic album, well, cult classic anyway, from 1994. And we're gonna talk about it. Unfortunately, I don't have the physical copy here with me in Spain. I once again have to apologize for that, especially to the label who sent me physical copies, but here it is. Abrader Redux by Dead Voices on Air. What a interesting title, to be honest. This one is originally from 1994, so in 2023 it's almost 30 years of age, and definitely as such worth a reissue, even if this music can be described as very marginal in nature, not for everybody, and not even for those, definitely not all for those who are into this kind of music. And the question then again is, well, who is this? Who this is meant for, and who are you talking about? Now, this one is a good question because this kind of release is harder to go through than just your average metal release. When we're talking about metal music or any kind of rock music really, which is kind of the main thing here, put steaks and potatoes on the channel, uh, we're of course talking about riffs and melodies and vocal parts and production and all that stuff. Now you want to just go pretty much and toss all of those mentioned out the window, and then we're going to focus on the music here. And that's kind of a combination of ambience and minimal nature of industrial. Now it's actually pretty much well said here, but I don't want to copy the text here and just claim it as my own, so I'd rather read it not to you, but more like if you're into this kind of music, you would just embrace yourself with the music and maybe read more about it. But it's really nicely put here on Cold Spring Bandcamp site, where you will find all the necessary information and beyond about this particular album, including, of course, track list and cover art and all that stuff. But there are some cult names worth mentioning, like Skinny Puppy, I guess, and this is why Dead Voices on Air is here. Now, when I say this is marginal music, I really mean it. Like, there are parts, especially, for example, the opening track, which runs more than 16 minutes, and it feels like you're in a factory or something, and the machine is basically making the music. Now, for a lot of people, that is like, what the hell are you talking about? This isn't exactly called music when you have some clanking noises with humming and buzzing and beyond. And I get it. I mean, I don't expect people to share my vision of good music when I'm talking about music in general to them. It's one thing to talk about, once again, metal releases and then talk about more marginal cases. Like when I used this example previously, but I'm just going to repeat it here for the sake of it. Like when I was in this Sevilla hotel a few weeks ago, I was listening by the breakfast table, this toast machine, which just kept making this kind of a drony noises, and I was like, okay, this is pretty much already an ambient track without any kind of need to just re-edit it and all that stuff. We're talking about that kind of music, so sometimes all you need is your pipes, especially with old buildings, during those repeated patterns or without any kind of a song structures, and that's pretty much of it. But that's not really the whole truth with this album, because while the first track could be really that, combining ambient and industrial in a rather nice yet very monotone ways, there are parts where it just gets more complicated. For example, there is this America's national anthem played here, but rather with a like weird twist. While I'm kind of a fan of that song, I don't deny that it really doesn't, add anything interesting to this album except like it's kind of a sample one. I'm talking about samples from movies and the like, games, TV series, whatever. And sometimes they really add something to an album, like, okay, this spoken part kind of gives me the chills or whatever, goosebumps. And sometimes you're like, okay, you kind of are overdoing it. Like there are albums where, just those samples take way too much time versus the original music. And this is why I'm mentioning it. This album is a little bit of a hit and miss. While there's certain patterns or, the lack of any kind of melodies or rhythmic patterns or whatever. There are parts where this album is more like going too much off the track, if you will. And that's putting me a little bit off. And by saying that, I don't mean this is a bad album, by no means, but it's just like I'm not the core audience, target audience, if you will, for this kind of music. I am saying that this album combining elements of industrial and more machine-like things, even if nothing is really not much happening. It's kind of almost like droney, but more buzzing and humming than just those low-frequency soundscape. Uh, it's definitely speaking towards the audience who wants something else, something more musical, if you will. And that's a little bit like distracting me because when I am into listening to some kind of ambient or drone album, I kind of want to keep it very, very minimal, like no spoken parts, no vocals, nothing like melodies, no rhythmic patterns too much. I just want to go with like all the way down. It's like keeping it super simple. I'm talking about artists like Lull or Sleep Research Facility and things like that. Innate kind of gets a pass from me, even though it's more industrial in its dark ambience, but it does it so beautifully. It gets a pass from me. But then there are albums like this one, which is like half good and half not my cup of tea. And it becomes difficult. People who are more, I guess, open-minded to combining these two different genres together are probably going to like this album a little bit more than I would. And that being said, I wouldn't say I am not going to recommend this just because I'm not the core audience. More like, how to say, go with caution. That is to say, embrace yourself for impact, having both worlds of industrial and ambience, and then you're in for some kind of a treatment. And also expect some kind of a droniness, like where nothing really happens except the machine-like sounds. Sometimes it's like overextending it too much, and I'm feeling like, okay, you could really move on. We kind of got it. But then again, like I said, I am kind of a sucker for repetition when it comes to this. So can't really bitch about it and being honest at the same time. So all I'm saying is that this is a pretty interesting album in so many ways, but not totally something that I would fully enjoy. So to people who can really expect to like both worlds, this is definitely worth giving a shot. And for others, I don't know. If you're not into both industrial things and ambience, even though sometimes they totally overlap, don't go for this one. But then again, I think it's best found out if you just give it a listen. And you will, of course, find a link provided in the description box for your listening pleasures. So, without a little bit of warning or some kind of a pointers out, check it out and you will find out whether you like it or not. And once again, if you like the digital product, consider buying a physical one because those albums never go out of streaming even if something mysterious happens. Thank you for watching the review. See you again. Bye bye.